Many of you have asked whether I'm still using The Good and the Beautiful. So today I'm finally going to share what I have been continuing to use and what I've decided to drop. Hi, I'm Jenny with Kids Learning for Life, and it has been a really long time since I made a video. Probably the last time we talked, I was freshly postpartum with my fourth daughter, and I think that was the year I had just started using The Good and the Beautiful. So that was like almost 2 years ago. Since then, I have started homeschooling my third daughter. My baby has magically become a toddler, and I've actually stopped working my full-time day job that I was doing from home. And I am a full-time stay-at-home homeschool mom now. Maybe another time I'll go into more detail about all these life changes and how they've affected my homeschooling. But for now, I really want to talk to you all about The Good and the Beautiful. So about 2 years ago, my kids were really struggling with math. I had used a few different curriculum, nothing was working. I just felt like nothing was actually teaching them what they needed to know. And I was starting to get a little uncomfortable with that. So I had actually started using the free printables of The Good and the Beautiful Math just about 2 years ago exactly. And so I was just printing off pages and just trying it out that way because I was just kind of grasping at straws. I'm like, something's gotta work. I've heard really good things about The Good and the Beautiful. Everyone uses this, so let's give it a try. And turns out I really loved it, but I did not love printing it. So Stacey and I ended up representing Kids Learning for Life and our Film Unit Studies curriculum, which there's more info about that in the description. And we went to the the Great Homeschool Convention in Southern California. And that's a huge homeschool convention. If you've never been there, it's in this huge hall. There are hundreds and hundreds of vendors there. So we were just one of them. But one of the other vendors was The Good and the Beautiful. They had this massive booth. I wouldn't even call it a booth. They had like maybe the equivalent of like 6 or 8 booths. And it was so beautiful. They had this furniture there. You could sit, get comfortable. There were desks. You could really look through everything. You could see all the different levels of every product that they had at the time. And it was then that I was like, I am just gonna go for it. I'm just gonna break down and buy this curriculum. So when I decided to buy it, I ended up purchasing math for both of my daughters that were homeschooled at the time, and then language arts for both of them as well. So that's all that we kind of dipped our toes into at first. I will say that I think, in my opinion, The Good and the Beautiful's strong suit is their math curriculum. I think it is just the best. I recommend it to everyone. I love that it is spiral, meaning instead of mastery, where you have to master a concept before moving on, in spiral, it'll revisit concepts over and over again so that you master it over a longer period of time. We were using something that was more mastery before, and it just wasn't working for my kids. I think part of that is because we use really short homeschool lessons. So it was hard to get my kids to sit down and master a subject in a lesson or two before like moving on to something else. Whereas in Good and the Beautiful, if you look through a flip through of it, or if you look at the free PDFs of their curriculum on their website, I mean, each lesson, they're doing a little bit of everything that they have learned recently, which I love. I love the mental math components. I love the way they teach things. I love the scope and sequence. I don't know, that seems to be a very technical term that curriculum people use. But I just love it all. I recommend The Good and the Beautiful Math to anyone, especially the people that feel like their kids are getting kind of behind or they're not getting it like they should. I recommend this curriculum to everyone. And for some reference, my kids are currently using levels 5, 3, and kindergarten. Now, something I will say about their math is that it seems like their math, at least based on California standards, that's where I live, even though, like, say my oldest is in level 5, she's actually covering more like 6th grade level standards, but in level 5 of The Good and the Beautiful. Now I want to talk a little bit about, I don't want to do this, but I do need to get a little bit negative just for a little bit. I really hate to be negative about anything that The Good and the Beautiful does, but let's just do it. Let's just get it out of our systems, okay? Language arts is the component of their curriculum that I just feel like is a little bit weaker than math. It's the one that we've fallen away from using as much. And for some reference, I've used basically levels 5 through 1 at this point. So I have experience with each of those different books, because for each year of language arts, it's all very different for each year of Good and Beautiful language arts. One thing I noticed about their language arts is that for each level, there are so many components that go with it. There is obviously like the main course book, but that's not really all of the curriculum. There's usually some sort of like extra writing book, or there's like a spelling one, or like for my younger daughter, it's like extra, like the booster cards, the reading, like the phonics program, I guess is what you would call it. If you're thinking about using their language arts, which for some people it'll probably work great, so I'm not trying to deter anyone from using it, but that's just something to consider. There are multiple components to the curriculum. It's not just one book. And I understand why they're doing this. They want to be a very robust, complete language arts curriculum. They don't want you to have to go somewhere else for phonics. They don't want you to have to go somewhere else for spelling. But I felt like every single day when we were opening the main language arts course book, and then it said, oh, in this other book, do this, and in this other book, do that. And I don't know about you, but I'm not the kind of person who wants to spend a lot of time fishing out all these products. I'm not that organized, so it's like, oh, I gotta go back in that cabinet and go get that. Like, we got so bogged down with all these things, and the lessons were taking so long. I ended up just kind of like skipping a lot of lessons. It got really repetitive, it got really involved, and like I said, we do short homeschool days, so I wasn't gonna sit there and do like an hour-long language arts lesson every day. I felt like that would just kill any motivation my kids had to want to read and write like in their everyday normal life. And now I'm gonna be a really big negative Nelly just for a moment. I don't like doing it, but I have to share my feelings right now. The readers that The Good and the Beautiful has you do with your kids, they are so bad. I really don't like saying this, but I've heard this from other people too, so it's not just me. But I feel like for a curriculum that kind of appeals to the Charlotte Mason homeschooler, it just does not rise to the challenge as far as the readers go. When you're a true Charlotte Mason homeschooler, you are going to pursue like surrounding your children with good books. That is like the key piece to Charlotte Mason. And so when you're trying to do that, and then the readers are just very boring, they're very, I wouldn't say they're even that well written. Sorry. I don't know. My kids were not interested in them at all. And because I saw no literary value to them, I was kind of like, yeah, that's fine. We don't have to do those. So like after the first year of kind of investing in a few of those, for the next year that I did an order, I didn't even bother buying them. Okay, I want to shake off all the negativity. We're not going to be negative anymore. We're just going to be honest. We're always going to be honest, but I don't want to be negative anymore about the things I don't like about Good and the Beautiful. I got it all out there. All of that being said, I do use both math and language arts for my kindergartner. I feel like until she is comfortable with reading and writing on her own, I'm not going to cut out their language arts yet for her. I think it's actually working really well with her to teach reading and writing, which I've never, I didn't start with Good and the Beautiful for my other girls from the beginning of their education. Like she's been using this since preschool. She did the preschool, she's done the, kindergarten prep, and now she's in the kindergarten level. So she's like a Good and the Beautiful kid and she loves it. She's thriving. So I'm just gonna stick with what we're doing. So what am I doing for language arts now if I'm not using Good and the Beautiful? I don't want to get too much into this process because it has nothing to do with Good and the Beautiful, but since you're probably wondering, like, is there a gap in her kid's education now because she stopped using Good and the Beautiful language arts? That's not the case at all. I actually totally simplified our language arts process, and I think it's really been helping, like, encourage this love of reading and writing. So what I've been doing is I've been using books. I've been assigning books to my two older girls, which are like 3rd and 5th grade. I've been assigning the books, and they are I'm kind of loosely using the Ambleside Online reading schedule. So, and I know what their abilities are. So it's like for my 3rd grader, she might have some of the shorter books, or maybe I'll give her something else that's not on Ambleside Online. But for my 5th grader, I mean, she's fully doing the reading schedule basically on her own. So how it works is I'll assign readings to them. So it's usually a chapter a day, something like that, from whatever book they're working on. And then they will do some sort of written response typically. So whether that's copywork sentences, whether that's their narration of what they just read, or I'll have them do some sort of comprehension, just something to get them writing and something to get them thinking about what they just read. I just think with the Good and the Beautiful language arts, that period of time that we were really using that, which that was even like earlier, like less than a year ago. I would say like just a few months ago, probably like 6 months ago. I was still trying to slog through these lessons with them because I was like, I love Good and the Beautiful. I want to stick with this. I want my kids to be Good and the Beautiful kids. But they were like losing their enthusiasm for wanting to read and write. Like, there was something about how much work was assigned each day and the kind of monotonous work that it was with Good and the Beautiful in language arts specifically that was just like killing their love of these things. Since we've stopped, they've been doing so much better about reading and writing on their own, and yeah, that's why this move has been really good for us. One other product that we use with the Good and the Beautiful is handwriting. So my 5th grader doesn't really need help with this. My 3rd grader is still struggling a little with handwriting. So she is in the level 3 handwriting course. So this one does a mix of print and cursive. And then what she loves about it is at the bottom of each page, there's like a little activity. Like sometimes it's a maze, sometimes it's like a drawing challenge kind of thing. And she loves that. So she begs to do like more and more pages. I'm like, no, we can't just do handwriting all day, unfortunately. But we love their handwriting. Another thing from the Good and the Beautiful that I just bought, and I have not received it yet, but I literally just bought it like yesterday, is their history curriculum. This is brand new. They've discontinued their old history and they're starting kind of over from scratch. So I ordered their level 1 or year 1 history. And the reason I did this is because it looks like it's a really easy way to incorporate history every day. I mean, we only need to do it a couple times a week, I think, in order to get through it. But it's a way for me to do history with all 3 of my school-aged kids at the same time, which is something I've been really struggling with reconciling with the using Ambleside Online for history going forward as I start homeschooling more kids. It just seems like a lot of work. So this is a way to we easily incorporate history into our day. It doesn't have to be a big deal. It can apply to everyone. There's something for everyone to do. So like I got like the student workbooks for my older 2, and then there's like one for like K through 2nd ages as well. So I got that for my 3rd daughter. So I'm cautiously optimistic about it. I don't know. I mean, it was kind of a big investment for me to buy a whole new component of curriculum from Good and the Beautiful, but I'm gonna go with it. I really want to try it. I really hope it works out. My one thing that I'm noticing about it is that it looks a little bit like the way language arts does with like all these different components. I'm like, are we gonna use this timeline book? Are we gonna use these flashcards? I don't know. I didn't buy every single component. I bought, the things that we for sure need. I know we didn't buy the storybook because their audio versions are available on the app. So I just wanted to have one less thing to manage, like physically in my house to actually have to organize. So we will see. I will probably do a whole video about it soon. I want to do an unboxing. I want to do a flip through. I want to do a review once we've really used it for a bit. So stay tuned for that. So I think we've covered it all. We love the Good and the Beautiful, math especially. 2 thumbs up to that. Language arts, it might work for some people, didn't work for us. And then handwriting, we love their handwriting. And history, we're gonna dip our toes into that and see how that works for us. I'm really excited to continue with their math curriculum as well, because I do know that they have through Math 8 now, which is, I think, pre-algebra. So at least I don't have to worry about getting into a different math curriculum company for a really long time. I'm so grateful that Good and the Beautiful is continuing to put out new products, because I just love them. To hear why I switched to Good and the Beautiful in the first place, and also to see my little baby when she was only like a month or two old, I'm gonna link a video right here, so check it out. See you next time, and happy homeschooling.